If you read the first verses in the 13th chapter, he really longed for her. But when he was done, all the physical gratification was over, he began to detest her. So we see there wasn't true love that he had for her. It was just lust and purely lust. And then what he did, he kicked her out of his house. I mean, in the certain portion of the palace where he lived, he just kicked her. She tore her clothes, threw ashes in her head, and she went to the house of his brother Absalom. And if you read the 20th verse, it says, her brother Absalom said to her, has that Amnon your brother been with you? Be quiet, for now my sister, he is your brother. Don't take this thing to your heart. And Tamar lived with his brother Absalom's house, a desolate woman. One of David's son, who should have become the king, he committed this heinous crime against his own sister. And Tamar began to live with his brother Absalom like a desolate woman. In the 21st verse, when King David heard all this, he was furious. What was David's response? Just anger. He did not summon Amnon. He did not confront him. He did not do anything that a godly father should have done. He became furious. He was very angry. But his daughter, Tamar, after her own brother raped her, she was absolutely broken. She was shattered into little pieces. She began to bleed on the inside. She became a desolate woman. All the dreams that she nursed for her future were shattered in a split second. And within David's palace, this young lady begins to live like a desolate woman. But David, I'm not talking about David the king now, I'm talking about David the daddy. David the father. He did not connect with his daughter. There are several reasons, because Jewish society was very chauvinistic. The male hierarchy, male dominance, women were never given that prominence. But look, his own daughter is shattered. Her own brother raped her. She is devastated. But the father did not connect with her. The father did not console her. The father did not go and speak with her. The father did not comfort her. And her brother Absalom, Bible says he was the most handsome young guy in the entire nation of Israel. Tall, handsome, and he had beautiful long hair. He has his sister who is broken and devastated by that very evil end. She lives with him. Absalom, when he looks at his own sister, just imagine what he must be going through. His brotherly heart was crushed. He was devastated on the inside, totally broken on the inside. He must be expecting his father to make a decision to summon the brother or to try to reconcile the family, to have some kind of heart love in the family. But David wouldn't do that. If you read the word carefully, David did not do anything except that he became angry. He did not do anything for his own daughter. And you know what happened? Hostility, anger, bitterness began to grow in the heart of Absalom. Whenever he will look at his sister, broken and desolate, there was no joy in her face. Her face was absolutely blank. Her eyes lost hope. When brother will look at the sister, what he will go through. So anger began to bulge on the inside. So since father did not make any initiative, father did not, got around, father did not speak to Amnon, did not speak to Absalom, did not try to console his own daughter Tamar. So the brother began to be very upset with the father. Look at David's life as a father. It is broken in pieces and scattered here and there. After that thing happened with David, David began to focus on the wars. He began to focus on the diplomacy and economy and other things. And he lost sight of his own home. Famous king, but failure as a father. He did not heal the wounds of his own daughter. He should have upheld the law of the Lord. You know, David is a man who says, I have hidden thy word in my heart that I may not sin against thee. David is a man who says, O Lord, thy word is sweeter than the honey and the honeycomb. He says, O Lord, for thy word is more precious than the refined gold and silver. We see the longing in David's heart for the law. You know, he talks about the law of God several times in the Psalms. How the law he cherishes. And now, when Amnon committed incest in his own house, David should have upheld the law of the Lord in his own family. Sometimes it is very hard for us to apply the word to our own family situations. Because of the emotional weaknesses. You know, Bible says, there are several scriptures, let me just quote them. Deuteronomy 27:22 says, Cursed be he who lies with his own sister, whether the daughter of his father or mother. And Leviticus 20:17 says, if a man marries his sister, the daughter of either his father or his mother, and they have sexual relationship, it is disgrace. And it says, they must be cut off before the eyes of the people. He has dishonored his sister, and he will be held responsible. Leviticus 18:9 says, do not have sexual relationship with your sister, either your father's daughter or your mother's daughter, whether she was born in the same house or elsewhere. Leviticus 18:27 says, for these things were done by the people who lived in the land before you, and the land became defiled. And if you defile the land, it will vomit you out as it vomited out other nations that were before you. And Numbers 30th and 31st verse says, but anyone who sins defiantly blasphemes the Lord, and that person must be cut off from his people because he has despised the Lord's word and broken his command. That person must surely be cut off. His guilt remains on him. You see the law? How strict was the law for such a sin? But David did not go to the book of the Lord. So what happened? Absalom, the enemy, took hold of his heart. Anger, bitterness, resentment began to rage heavily in David's heart. You know, if you would not speak when there are issues in your family with your children, so many parents I have seen are typically, you know, our Indian parents. When they see that their young children do not live up to their expectations, and they do what they don't expect them to do, they shut down. They don't communicate. That's the way how they show their anger and disapproval. They don't talk. Don't communicate. It's like destroying the bridge. That's what David did. He began to hatch anger in his heart. And on the other side, his son Absalom is so deeply devastated because his father did not play a godly character. You know, like 18, 19 years ago, when the Lord called me, and how gloriously the Lord saved me, and how sacrificially each day I walked with God, and how I suffered for God, and how I was persecuted for the sake of Christ, and how I lived for God, and how I won souls for God, and how God began to bless me and put me around the world. My children, my firstborn is like less than 2 years of age. He won't know these things, will he?